Okay, let's begin. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Hadith number 39. عن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله تجاوز لي عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكرهوا عليه. حديث حسن رواه ابن ماجه وبيهقي وغيرهما. Okay, so let's have a look at this hadith. If somebody could read it in English, anybody? Okay.
On the authority of Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with both of them, the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's blessing and peace be upon him, said, on my behalf, Allah has pardoned for my nation what is done mistakenly, out of forgetfulness, or under duress. A Hasan Hadith recorded by Ibn Majah, Al-Bayhaqi and others.
Okay, very good, mashallah. So, first thing, we're on to hadith number 39, so there's 3 more hadith left until we finish the book. So that's an amazing achievement for everyone. Secondly, this hadith is very short, but the implications of this hadith are huge. So it's very, very important, especially in the topic of usul al-fiqh, for those who are aware, the guidelines or the jurisprudence of how we derive our fiqh. Okay, so this applies to so many different issues, so it's very, very important. And it's going to be very technical today, so I need you all to eat a few dates and drink a bit of coffee or tea, so you're awake. So, the first thing is that this hadith in and of itself is narrated to be a weak hadith, okay? But here is a general principle. Okay? You might need to make some copies here. Another 6. Okay. Alright, excellent. So, going back to the hadith, a very short hadith, but yet very powerful. This hadith in and of itself, when it comes to the understanding of hadith, is actually a weak hadith. It's not a very sound or very strong hadith in and of itself. But here comes a principle of Sharia, that sometimes the hadith might be weak, but it's still used as evidence. Why? Because there are external factors or other elements that make the hadith or the contents of the hadith strong. Okay? And we will come to see that. So the hadith itself, the chain and the narration is weak, but the contents of it are authentic, and we will see all the various ayat and other hadith that support it. Why did I make mention of that? Because sometimes certain people, when they're looking at deen or Islam, they will just look at it from a very narrow perspective, and they will say, no, the hadith is weak, and they just leave it at that. It's not as simple as saying the hadith is weak, because you have to look at other factors as well. Okay, I think the ladies might be there. Okay, alright, I think everyone's got one now. So good. So sometimes the hadith in and of itself, it can be weak, but there are other factors that will support the hadith, and we can make use of that in legislation. Okay, so this is one of those hadith where the hadith itself is weak, but we will find how it is supported from other elements. So the general comments about this hadith you can make note is that the hadith is talking about personal responsibility. So in Sharia, it's called a taklif. Okay, a taklif, personal responsibility. What things is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to ask you about? Okay? And at what point does a person become responsible? So as an example, if a child at the age of 7, is he responsible for all of his actions? Okay? So the answer would be no. A child at the age of 17, 18, is he responsible? He is. What's the difference between the two? Well, in Arabic they say al-balugh. One has reached his balugh, he's become a young man, and the other one hasn't quite reached that level. So that's another element of determining whether somebody is responsible or not. Or, for example, if somebody was asleep. Okay, so the prayer time kicked in and they were asleep and the prayer time left, they missed the prayer. Is that person now going to be held responsible? Generally speaking, he's not. Okay, but if it was neglect on his behalf, then he is. Okay, for example, he didn't put his alarm clock on, or he knew that he's not going to make it, then he should not go to sleep. But generally speaking, there are certain things that take away responsibility from a person, and that's what we're going to discuss here. In this hadith, which we're going to talk about today, he mentioned only 3 of them. There's a list of them, but the 3 he mentioned are, number 1, if you can highlight these, is al-khata, so something which is done out of mistake. So the first one is, the Messenger said, Allah has pardoned for my nation what is done mistakenly. So something which is done as a mistake, that's number 1. Number 2, al-nisyan, something which is done out of forgetfulness. Okay? Something which is done out of forgetfulness. We're going to look at lots of examples, and today you're going to be scholars and give me answers to these scenarios. So one just to think about for now, and we'll go into detail later, is in Ramadan. If somebody eats out of forgetfulness, okay, is he responsible?
No.
What happens? What does he do? We will talk about all of that. Okay. Also, wala ustukrihu alayhi. This is another very important. What is done out of force? Okay. When somebody is forced, are they responsible for what they do? Okay. Someone's got a gun to their head. Someone in prison. Okay. Someone is forced to do certain things. Is he responsible for what he does? Okay. So those are the 3 things that we're going to look at. Okay. The narrator of the hadith is Ibn Abbas, and we've talked about Ibn Abbas before. There is a general principle which I would like you to write down as well. The Sharia comes with a very general principle comes from the ayah, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ, that Allah has not made this deen difficult for you. Okay, this deen, the Sharia wants ease for us. Okay, فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Haraj means difficulty. So Allah, one of the guidelines of the Sharia is that He wants ease for you. We're not all about making everything haram. We don't want to make everything difficult for people. No, it's the other way around. Wherever we can, we try to ease things out. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His wisdom, He facilitates ease for people. Okay, I'll give you a good example of that. When you are traveling, yeah, what can you do to your prayers?
Shorten.
You can shorten them. Yeah, so when you're traveling. What can you do to your prayers if you have a difficult scenario in front of you? So you're not able to make your prayer right now. What can you do?
Join them.
You can join them. Okay, so you can join them. And we know the Dhuhr and the Asr is joined, and the Maghrib and the Isha is joined. Can I, if I have a difficulty, let's say for example I've got an exam, yeah? My exam starts at 4 and it finishes at 6. So which prayer does that cut into? Maghrib. Okay? Now can I shorten my Maghrib? No. Okay, let's take another example. Let's say I've got an exam, okay, at the so let's say I've got an exam at 1 o'clock. Dhuhr is roughly 1 o'clock, right? So if we say I've got an exam at 1 o'clock and the exam finishes at 3, so that's my whole Dhuhr prayer gone in the exam. Now, am I allowed to shorten my prayer? Put your hands up who thinks you can shorten. Again, okay, so if I have an exam starting at 1 o'clock, okay, and my exam finishes at 3 o'clock, which means the whole of my Dhuhr prayer is going to be inside the exam. Am I allowed to shorten my Dhuhr prayer?
No.
Why not?
You can combine with Asr maybe, but not shorten Asr.
Why? Justify your answer.
Because shortening is just for travelling.
Very good. Okay, this is the point. Many people forget that. Write this down. Shortening of the prayers is only for traveling. Only for traveling. There is no other way you can shorten the prayers. Only if you're traveling. The combining of the prayers is due to hardship. So write that down. Due to hardship. So you could be in your house and you can combine your prayers if you have a difficulty. Okay? So let's say there is a mother, she's got lots of children, the children are young, they're ill, she's feeding them, she's got no time, she's really struggling, and it's the winter now with Dhuhr comes in, Asr comes in, the next thing you know it's Maghrib. Okay? Let's say, I'm just hypothetically speaking, that she's extremely busy. In this case, does she have a hardship? Yeah, if you can quantify it that she has a hardship, then she can do what? She can combine. Okay? She can combine. Or if you got an exam, for example, okay, then you can also combine. But you can't shorten. So why do we then combine our prayers when we're traveling?
we might not get a chance to go to a message or stop and wait.
Okay, so broaden that out a little bit.
Does it also count as a hardship?
Very good. Okay, because the Prophet ﷺ said that any kind of travel is a form of hardship. So if you're traveling, you have two luxuries. You can shorten and combine. But if you have a difficulty in your life, you can just combine. Okay, so make note of that, because many people forget that. So the reason why I mentioned that is because this is what we're talking about. Circumstances where the rules change. Now, the first part of the hadith, we realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allah has pardoned for my nation. So Allah, tajawaza li an ummati. Tajawaza means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has pardoned. We see from the beginning of this hadith that the rahmah of Allah is what the hadith begins with. Allah has pardoned. Allah has shown His mercy to His slaves. So we can see the wisdom or the justice and the mercy inside of this hadith. Now, here comes a philosophical question. When you look at this hadith, go back to the Messenger of Allah, he said that, for those who came late, I said today's lesson is going to be a bit technical, so you need to be aware. The Messenger of Allah, he said, peace be upon him, on my behalf, Allah has pardoned for my nation. And then it comes the mistake, or the forgetfulness, or the duress. What exactly, this is the question, what exactly has Allah pardoned? So it says, Allah has pardoned for His nation. So forgetfulness or mistakes, okay, or that which is done out of force. Okay. So my question is, what has Allah exactly pardoned? What does that mean?
The sins of the nation.
So one person said sins. Is that the only thing He's pardoned? What's that? Allah's huquq? Yeah, we're going to come to that in a minute. What else? Or if
The action.
Huh?
The actual action.
Very good. Okay, so the action. Okay, so the sins is something to do with the hereafter. And the action is something to do with the worldly action. True? Yeah? So here, this is in Arabic what they call as umum al-muqtada. Umum al-muqtada means that there is something being implied. Okay, so even in English you have a sentence, sometimes all the information is not there, things are being implied. So in this hadith, something is being implied. Okay, and here the scholars, they did great work to see what exactly is being said. Some of them said that Allah has pardoned just the sin, not the act itself, just the sin. You're not sinful if you did something out of forgetfulness, or if you did it by doing a mistake. Okay. The others group of scholars, they said no, the sin is forgiven. Okay, the sin is forgiven, plus the action as well is also forgiven. I'll give you an example. In the month of Ramadan, if you ate, okay, out of forgetfulness, are you sinful?
No.
No. Okay. So that's fine. Let's move to this side. What about the action? Does it invalidate your action?
No.
No.
No. So you're saying that the person, he's got no sin, and the action is also not affected. Okay. So this person is saying no, he's got no sin, but the action becomes invalid. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
Because something's being implied. If we imply that the sin is missing, how many things are we implying? How many things are we saying that Allah is pardoning here?
Breaking fast.
Huh?
Just breaking.
Just
Just
the things. How many things are there?
One.
One. If we go to this side, how many things is Allah pardoning here? Two. Okay. So here comes the philosophical question. Now, when it comes to things being implied, are we allowed to assume just the bare minimum, saying that one thing is being implied, or can we say that it's anything and everything that makes sense, that we can apply as being something implied? Are you with me? Am I clear?
Does it depend on the action?
So let me repeat that again in a different way. So something is being implied in this sentence. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ didn't say it very clearly. Something is being implied. Now, you can either say we will take just one meaning of that which is being implied, okay, or we can take all the possible meanings that are being implied and work with all of them. So there's two choices. So we can either go with the bare minimum that Allah will forgive your sins of anything you have done out of these circumstances, or some people say no, Allah will forgive the sin and also forgive the action as well. So there's something else. Okay. So what do you think? When we're implying stuff, should we just go with just one implication, or are we allowed to broaden out and take as many meanings as we can?
Go with what's easier. What reduces the most hardship.
So think about, so hands up, what do you think? Go with just one, because here you're saying this is what Allah is saying, so you're going to make laws with this, so it's very, very serious. So would you say that we just stick with the closest meaning, and no one disagrees about the sins, so we just stick with that? Or so you say no, there's a possibility that also the action is forgiven as well. So we broaden out a little bit. Who thinks we should just go with the one implication? Hands up. Okay, one hand, two, you're playing it safe. 3 hands, 4 hands.
It's an auction.
4. Okay, 4 hands. Who says no? We can broaden out a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so 7 hands, and there's a few people who are still thinking. Okay, so let me tell you, those who took this interpretation, who said no, just the sin is forgiven, they were the Ahnaf. Okay, so the Ahnaf. So the Hanafis. So Imam Hanifa and his followers, they said just the sin. Okay, whereas here, this is the Jumhur, meaning all the other scholars. Okay, so the vast majority of scholars said there's nothing wrong with implying both the sin as well as the action. Whereas the Ahnaf, who took a very conservative approach, they said no, just the sin itself. Yeah.
When you say action, do you mean the fast would not be broken? Is that what it means?
Yeah, so in this case, they will say your fast is not broken.
And they're saying you have to make up the
They
fast.
say you have to make up the fast.
Okay.
So you understand the implication? So this is the safer one, and this is, I don't want to say unsafe, but it's a bit more easier. Okay? Both are correct. It all comes down to the philosophy. So it comes down to the language. Like even in English, when something is implied, do we just go with the one, the first thing that it comes to our mind, or are we allowed to branch out a little bit and say, no, this is possible, and this is possible as well? And if all three are possible, we take all three of the meanings. Yeah? So that's even in the English language, it works like that.
I think that one eradicates doubt, whereas that one looks at the fact that it's actually done by like forgetfulness, or it's an error on the person. It's not intentional.
Okay.
Whereas there, it's safe, isn't it? Whether your intention was pure or not, you won't be wrong because you're recovering.
So that's going on the safety side.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's wrong. Okay?
If they're both right, and like we're just talking about the fast, so what does the person do? If they don't make it up or they make it up, you're both
So
right.
if you follow this approach, and you ate accidentally in the month of Ramadan, you're not sinful. Okay, Allah is not going to hold you accountable, but that day, what you have to do to that day?
You have to fast
You have to
again.
make it up. Because the action is not forgiven. So you broke it. So just the sin is forgiven, not the action. Whereas the second approach, and this the vast majority of the scholars said this, the sin is forgiven, as well as the action is also
So does the
forgiven.
person have a choice then? They to make it up or not?
Yeah, so this is why the teacher should be very careful when he's teaching his students. If he thinks his students are going to pick and choose, then he shouldn't teach them. But if he feels that his students are intelligent and they're going to do more research, then he can teach them. Okay, so you know which approach I take. Okay? So you should look into the matter. So this is known as Umum al-Muqtada. Yeah.
Well, if you took the first approach,
Yeah.
but you never remembered, so you broke your fast but never remembered.
You never remembered you broke your fast.
Yeah.
Okay, then if you never ever remember, then it's okay. You still have to break up the fast.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
You'll have a fast on your accountability. Yeah.
If you don't remember, then nothing happens and you just don't
you
remember.
still get a sin then.
So you will be sinful for not doing the action, properly. So you can see how it works. I'm going to give you loads of examples. That was the one that we just did. I'm going to give you more, and then you're going to answer them, not me. Okay? So let's just go through it. Okay, let's look at another example then. In the case of accidental murder, so someone's driving down the road, they actually hit someone, the person dies. Okay? In that case, if you look at that, if we say it was done by accident, the person didn't mean to do it. So if we take the first approach, or like Abu Hanifa's approach, is the person sinful for killing that person accidentally?
No.
He's not, of course not. Then if you look at the other approach, they say the same thing. They say that also he's not sinful, okay? So what does he do in return? What's going to be the worldly action that's a consequence of the killing?
Blood money.
It's the blood money, okay? So you still have to give the blood money in this case, okay? That's a little bit different actually because that's mentioned inside the Quran. Okay, so that was just another example of a case where the sin is forgiven, but the worldly action, which the family is deserving of blood money, they still receive the blood money, okay? So the sin is forgiven. All right.
So if by paying the blood money, he just walks away?
Yeah, if it's accidental. If it's accidental. Okay. Let's have a look at another example.
Sorry, just to complicate things.
Yeah.
Would he need witnesses to prove his innocence, or is it innocent until proven like that?
Innocent until proven guilty, but everything we're saying here is all comes down to a process in law. So he's going to go to court. So everything, how a normal court works, witnesses, lawyers, everything. It's not just a matter of just like that. It's a law. It's a process. Okay, but I'm summarising things to keep things easy for us to understand. But this is all a law process. So even killing by accident, that has to be proven, has to go through court and so on and so forth. They look at the circumstances, look at evidence and so on, and they look at it. Okay, another example. If somebody's praying, okay, and while he's praying, he mistakenly talks to somebody. Okay, so we know talking during the prayer does what to your prayer? Invalidates your prayer. So, if it invalidates your prayer, let's go back to this. So he's committed a crime. He's spoken while he's in prayer. So he's sinful. Is the sin overlooked? Because it was done by mistake.
Yeah.
It's overlooked. Yeah. So according to the Ahnaf, the sin is according to all the scholars, the sin is overlooked. Now, is the breaking of the prayer overlooked if you're Hanafi? No. So what happens to his prayer?
He restarts it.
He has to pray again. If you go to the majority of the scholars, they say that the sin of him talking during the prayer, is it overlooked? Yes. Is his prayer broken? No. You see the difference? So this is a very small hadith, but the implications are very, they're very serious. So there's another example. So you can write that as a good example. Yeah. So talking during the prayer. So you remember this. So generally speaking, the talking in the prayer breaks your prayer. So the Ahnaf, they would say he's not sinful, but he has to repeat the prayer. His prayer is finished. Whereas the majority of the scholars, they would say his sin, he's not sinful. Also, the action is overlooked as well. So his prayer, he can continue praying. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the fasting. And if like for example, if you're doing Fard or if you're doing a Sunnah fast, or is that your fast not?
If you.
Because you don't have to make it up because it's a voluntary fast.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So what we're talking about here is the obligatory acts. Yeah, the recommended ones are a bit different. Yeah. So we deal with the obligatory acts and then we move over to the other actions. So write that down. That's a good one.
So is it, when you say talking, does it mean that he starts himself talking or start talking to somebody else?
He either initiates a conversation or he responds to a conversation. But the thing is, he says things that are not inside the prayer.
Because I've seen sometimes people praying and they start talking as well.
I don't know. Okay. So, another example. So another example of umum al-muqtada. Okay, another example of umum al-muqtada where the word is implied. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nisa, verse 23. You can take this as a good example as well. Surah An-Nisa, verse 23. What do you say? حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم. حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم. That your mothers are haram for you. That's all it says. Now, we're looking for the word that's implied. Does it mean, I'm just giving this as a lesson, no mature adults. Does it mean that حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم, that it's haram to eat your mothers? No, no one would say that. Would it say it's haram to beat your mothers? No one would say that. But what you will agree, حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم, that your mothers are haram for you, is talking about what? Marriage. The nikah with your mother is haram. But then the word nikah is not mentioned. Nothing is mentioned. All it says is حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُم, that your mothers are made haram for you. So something is implied, okay? And here you will come to a word or a meaning. What is that? The scholars all agree. Let's talk about nikah. Okay, there's ijma', that no one denies that. Some things are clear cut, like this verse, no one's going to deny it. But then other things like this, you can say this is correct and this is correct. Okay? Another example, Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, take this down as well, verse number 3. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ الْمَيْتَةُ. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ الْمَيْتَةُ. So a dead animal is haram for you. Now, what does it mean that it's haram for you? Haram for you to wear, to carry, to touch, to eat. But Allah didn't mention that in the Quran. Allah didn't say eating in the ayah at all. So here it comes down to those who understand the language and know what's being implied. Those two ayahs are very easy and basic. They're good examples to use for this principle of something being implied. Okay, because the answer is clear cut and all the scholars agree on it. But then there are other things, and there's many verses in hadith like this as well, where something is being implied, but some people will just say, no, we take the agreed word that's been implied, or we can branch out a little bit as well. That's the difference. Is there a reference?
Yeah, the reference.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So the one was Nisa 23 and the other one was Al-Ma'idah 3. So, like we said, the brother, he said that if you take this first approach, this is going on the side of caution and safety. Whereas those who agree to that, but these lot, they looked around, they said on their side that you're being too strict. Okay, because we said at the beginning, the qaida, that Islam is based on ease. So you guys are being too strict. And only the Ahnaf, no one else. Okay, so all of these guys accuse these guys of being too strict, too narrow-minded. Okay, and these guys looked at these guys and said, no, you're being too lenient. Yeah, so that was the difference between the two approaches. So what is worse, being too lenient or being too strict?
Lenient.
Being too lenient.
Lenient.
You got to be in the middle also, or not too
Here there's no
strict,
middle,
not-
you have to choose.
Lenient.
Okay. Okay, here's a good one. So you'll see. People's opinions change with examples. Okay, so let's say a man was forced to divorce his wife. Okay, so whatever the circumstances, someone threatened his family, whatever happened, they said, actually this happens in our culture, they say you have to divorce her or we're never going to speak to you again. Yeah, so whatever. The force is legitimate. The issue of the discussion of force, we will come to that later as well. But there's a legitimate reason of force why the man said to his wife that she's divorced. So here there's two things. There's the sin, okay, and then there's the consequence. So what's the consequence? So the sin is dealing with the hereafter, and the action is dealing with the worldly matter. So the sin is the divorce, like he's for no reason. He's just going to divorce. She's a good lady. She's done nothing wrong. So he's sinful for treating a woman like that. And then the worldly consequence is she divorced or not? Okay, let's go back to the board now. See, some of you will change your mind. So he was forced to divorce his wife. So is he sinful for that?
Yes.
No.
No.
It's a forced,
He's
yeah.
forced, so he's not. Good, so we're in the Hanafi so far. Let's move forward. So he's not sinful, okay, but is he now divorced or is he married?
No, he's divorced.
No,
I mean, he's divorced, otherwise he won't be
Yeah,
sinful
that's right.
in the first place.
He's divorced her in the proper way, as it.
Apply the principle. If it's just talking about the sin, then he's sinful, but the sin is overlooked because he was forced. Okay, so he's not sinful. Okay, I should have said that. He's not sinful, so it's overlooked. But he's still, is he married or not married?
He's divorced.
Is divorced. Because the action, they say that no, applies. If we go to the Jumhur, they say that he's not sinful, but he's
Married.
married, he's still married. So here he's divorced and here he's married. So is the consequences severe? Depending on which approach you take. Yeah, he's talking about marriage being broken or still being married. So this is why you can't, what's important as students of Islam is that you can't pick and choose. So don't look at the issue of divorce and say, no, we're going to go with Islam. And then when it comes to prayer, no, I'm going to go with Islam. You have to pick one and apply that to all affairs.
Yeah.
That's how a just student is, okay? Because otherwise, you're picking and choosing it. So if you feel that this is justified, then if a person gave divorce out of force, the marriage is over, okay?
So, is it significant that it's out of force, or it doesn't matter which of the three?
Any of those three, but how is someone going to divorce his wife mistakenly?
Okay, not the marriage, but I'm saying the force thing.
It's possible. Maybe he's got more than one wife, and he was meant to divorce the second one, but he. It's possible.
No, I'm saying because it's out of force,
Yeah,
do we overlook the action?
yeah, but we're going to come to force in a minute. What is force?
Okay.
Okay, so for example, just because your mother, I'm not saying just joking, just because your mother is saying divorce your wife, is that force? That's not force. Okay, she can't do nothing to you. It's not force. But we'll come to that. Okay.
A small question. Small question.
Yeah.
How can someone force a man to marry a woman while the man poor been suffering probably 4 or 5 years to find one? And he will divorce the woman?
Okay, we will come to those questions at the end. Let me deal with the technical stuff.
Yes.
And then we'll come to the emotional stuff. Okay, good. So now I want you to write this down. There are 3 types of rights. Okay, so 3 types of actions. Okay, there are 3 types of actions. There is the first action, which is the rights of Allah. Okay, the rights of Allah, meaning pure acts of worship, your salah, your fasting, okay, and these things. So pure rights of Allah. In this case, generally speaking, these acts are forgiven. If you do that, if you forget to do them, or you do them out of forgetfulness or forced or mistake, they're forgiven, and Allah does not require you to do them again. Okay, so the default setting with these things is one of forgiveness. Your sin is removed, and Allah does not require you to do them. So these are the rights of Allah. The second is the rights of the community. So your connection with society. Okay, the rights dealing with society. Okay, so you're not affecting yourself directly or the community, but the rights of, for example, somebody, a Muslim was drinking and he was seen drunk. Okay, so in this case, these also, generally speaking, they're overlooked as well. If it's out of force, or it's done mistakenly, or it was out of forgetfulness, then these things are overlooked as well. Okay, but when it comes to the rights of individuals, this is the third one, the rights of individuals. So the first one is the rights of Allah, which is generally overlooked. The rights of the community, they're overlooked. Only in these 3 circumstances, don't forget what's on the board, yeah? I'm not speaking in general. Just these, in forgetfulness and force and out of mistake. But the last one, which is the rights of other individuals, it's not overlooked. Okay, it's not overlooked. The sin is overlooked, but the consequence is not overlooked. Example, if, let's say, Musa had his phone on the table, and I, out of mistake, I didn't realize, and I took it and I dropped it, or I broke it, or I did something to it, by accident, I didn't mean to. Here, I'm not sinful, because I didn't do that by purpose. But what I am responsible for is what? Replacing his phone. Okay, so that's something that we have to remember. So when it comes to human interaction, the worldly matters, we have to cover up them, but we're not sinful. So for example, a crazy man, yeah, somebody, he's lost his mind, and he destroys your property, he smashes your car or something like this. Is he sinful? No. But does he have to replace the damage? He does. Okay, so either he does directly, or his family, they would have to cover the cost for what he's done. So when it comes to rights of humans, the sin is forgiven if it's done in these 3 circumstances, but the consequence must be replaced. Okay, be it financial, okay, it has to be replaced. So please make note of that as well.
Is this agreed upon?
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing I would like you to write down is the concept of legal capacity. So in English we say legal capacity, in Arabic we say at-taklif, meaning when is a person responsible? Okay, when is a person responsible? Yeah, a person is responsible, very easy, is obviously number 1, he has to be living. Okay, we can't attribute a crime to the dead. Okay, So the person is living. Secondly, he has to be an adult and mature. Okay, so we say adult, and then we say mature. Because some adults are immature. Okay, some of them they're grown up, but their brains don't fully function. Yeah? So we say, and he's not necessarily crazy. He's just immature. Okay, like he'll do things and you just don't understand why he's doing that. So that's the second one. So first is that he's living. Second is adult. Number 3 is that he's mature. Okay. Number 3 is that he's mature. And the fourth is that he's intelligent. Okay. Okay, that he's intelligent. Okay. So what's the opposite of intelligence? Just or ignorance. Yeah. So he has a lack of knowledge. Okay, on something. So somebody is aware. And the last one is that he's sane. Okay, that he is sane. He's not mental. He's not. There's another mental illness. If those things apply, then the person is responsible for his actions. Okay. Now, now the second discussion is when is a person not responsible? Okay, when is a person not responsible? So if for this, when the person is not responsible, if you can do a drop down, 2 sections. So you can say 1 is due to the person's actions himself. Over here. Okay, so his own actions. Okay, actions outside of his control. Okay, so these things, if a person falls into, he's not responsible. So let's start with actions. The actions outside of his own control. So, for example, if a person becomes mad, okay, or crazy, it just happened. Okay, people have mental illnesses; they can get disturbed. Okay, so in these circumstances, all these rules apply. Okay, so they're forgiven, their mistakes are overlooked, they're not sinful. Okay. Also, for example, when a woman's going through menstruation, okay, certain rules, Islamic rules, are overlooked. Okay, things like prayer and fasting, etc. Forgetfulness. Okay, and we'll take one more, which is sleep. Okay, these are things that if they occur or happen to a person, then we look at the exceptions to the rule. So their sins are overlooked. So, for example, if a person goes crazy, he's not going to pray and he's not sinful. A woman who's menstruating, then she doesn't have to pray or fast. Okay, she's not sinful. A person who forgets, to do something, okay, whatever it was that he had to do, he forgot, he's not sinful. Or a person who overslept, okay, he's also not sinful. These are out of his control. Now here comes to the things that he is in control of. Actions done by himself, okay, or by others. The only thing that falls in actions that are done by others is force, okay, because you don't force yourself, someone forces you to do something, okay, and if you're forced and the force is legit, then it's overlooked, okay, and the other one, which is done by the person himself, is ignorance. Okay. Sometimes ignorance is an excuse, and sometimes ignorance is not an excuse. I'll talk about that in just a second. But each person's ignorance is because of their own self, because they're the ones who didn't go out and learn. Okay, so you're responsible for your level of ignorance. Or a state of being drunk. Okay, you either, for example, you took medicine, and some medicine literally makes you drunk, it makes you lose and puts you to sleep. Or you actually went out and had a drink. Okay, so when you're in a state of drunkenness, are you responsible? Okay, good question. We'll come to that in a second as well. Okay, what else? Okay, joking. Okay, I'll give examples for all of those now. Can you see from there? Sort of. Okay. I'll try to write on this side of the book. Okay, so if we come to, so we're going to look at force in just a moment. The things that are outside someone's control, I think that's quite straightforward. Ignorance, now, ignorance depends. If somebody does something out of ignorance, okay, let's say, what would you say to a person who bows down to a grave? Okay, something very sensitive. Somebody who bows down to a grave, is that kufr or not?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a grave right in front of him, he's gone into sujood, right in front of him. Is that kufr or not?
So yes. Bow and sujood, two different things.
Sujood.
Sujood.
Is that hands up? Is that kufr or not? Yeah, everyone should have their hand up. That's kufr. There's no doubt about it. Okay. Now here comes the issue of what was I talking about? Ignorance. So, do you think a person who lives in somewhere like in Pakistan, like Multan, for example, where there are shrines everywhere, okay, and people generally they're not very well educated, okay. So this person, he's grown up in this area. People go to the grave. He hasn't got a clue what's going on. He sees them walking in, they bow down, and then they walk on. Bow down and they walk on. So he's grown up. He's done the same thing. Okay, he's bowed down and he's walked on. Scenario number one. Scenario number two, somebody was brought up in the Khalij, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, or something like this, where no one bows down to graves. Okay? And they found this person bowing down to a grave. Would we treat both of them the same?
No.
No, we wouldn't. Okay? This is the point. So the scholar has to really dig deep into the issue and look at the level of ignorance. If this person, for example, one is brought up in Multan, we don't pronounce this person as a non-Muslim. He's a Muslim. Until you sit with him, educate him, and if he does it after that again, then it's a different story. So we treat him differently. They give him the excuse of ignorance. But somebody was brought up in an area, nobody bows down to graves at all, and he went against the norm and bowed down to the grave, there's no excuse. Okay? There's no excuse. So this is the level of ignorance. So let's go to the person who's
But
drunk.
isn't, I mean, that example alone,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any room for ignorance in that sense, because that's the fundamentals of Islam. Association of, like,
Some people
it does happen though.
no, it happens, but that is your basic Islam, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can understand the next
That's why
one.
I said it's a sensitive one, because this is where scholars differ. Some people said, even in places like Multan, those who make sujood to graves, doesn't matter. We can't give them the excuse of ignorance, outright non-Muslims. Okay? The others said, no, this is too harsh, because these people haven't got a clue what they're doing. You know, some they're ignorant, they're uneducated, they're poor. Some of them are in scenarios where their livelihood depends on certain things. So you have to first educate them, and then if the evidence is given to them and they still do it, then you can say what you want. But until then, the scholars say, and this is the majority of people, they say you have to give them the excuse. Okay? There are some who say there is no excuse to the fundamentals at all. Okay? So like I said,
Isn't
Okay.
it true that is a part of our community, such as like Pakistan we're talking about, we have the, because we have been living with the Hindus, so we have some cultural or these things influence on us.
yeah, but brief answer, it's not an excuse. Okay, brief answer, it's not an excuse. Yawm al-Qiyamah, that's not going to get you out of trouble. Okay, we can't blame the Hindus and the influence. Allah's given us aql and we have to use it. Okay, we have to research and understand. Anyway, moving forward, where was I? Yeah, drunkenness. So a person who gets drunk, here's another classical example. What would you say? A person, he got drunk, okay, by himself. He went out, had a drink, come home, was drunk. What do men do mostly when they're drunk?
Beat their wife.
Yeah, they beat their wives. So he comes home and this guy, he is one step ahead. He doesn't just beat her, but he says, I divorce you 100 times. Okay? So here's the question. Is that divorce valid or not?
No.
Who says yes? Put your hand up. Okay, 2, who says, okay, 3, who says, no, it doesn't apply. Okay, so all the men said no. And then
I think it's the beating part, wasn't it?
I should record this because there's some questions that are so clear cut, like hands up, hands up. Okay, it's interesting, it's psychology. Anyway, so in this case, the scholars also differ. Okay, many of them said that because the guy's drunk, he doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, so he's sinful for getting drunk, but the divorce doesn't apply. And that's what some of them said.
He's intentionally gone out and done
This is the point. So the other group of scholars, they said no, he is drunk, and the divorce applies as well. Okay, so the divorce applies in that case because he went out and drank. So what they say is that if a person, him by his own will, got out and he drank, whatever happens after that as a consequence, whether he divorced his wife, whether he killed someone on the way back, no matter what he did, he's responsible. Okay, so the divorce will apply and the killing will apply. But the other group say that no, it won't apply because he was in a state of drunkenness. If the person got drunk not out of his own willing, so for example, he didn't know, he took medicine and then he just fell behind the weed or whatever, then they say no, he's not responsible. Okay, so in those cases, so that's drunkenness and also and joking. There are three issues, but two that concern us. That the Prophet ﷺ said that the joking in it is serious. Even though you're joking, the rule applies. Who knows what those two are?
Divorce.
Divorce and the opposite of divorce.
Marriage.
And marriage. Okay. So if you say I do, I accept, jokingly, it's done. Okay, so be careful. And secondly, if you also say to your wife, jokingly, I divorce you, it's also done. Okay, so that's why, for men especially, you need to take care of that. Okay, so men need to be very careful with that word. Okay, delete it from your vocabulary. That's why. Okay, so those are two things that joking is not accepted. All right, because of time, let's move forward. Now, when it comes to force, okay, the issue of force is also important. When it comes to force, write this down. There are 4 components to someone being forced. Okay, the first component is the one doing the force, or what do you call him? The forcer? I don't know. The
Enforcer.
Enforcer.
The enforcer. Okay, all right. The one who's forcing the person. Yeah. So the one who's forcing, and then the second is the one being forced. Forcee.
Enforcer.
Enforced. Yeah.
Enforcer.
Enforced. Yeah. And the third thing is the threat itself. Okay, the third one is the threat itself. What is he actually threatening you? Okay. Is the force itself. And the fourth is the consequence. Yeah, so the first is the one forcing, and the second one is the one being forced, and the third one is the threat itself, and the fourth is the consequence of the threat. So very briefly, when it comes to the one forcing, how do we, the whole this discussion we're having is, was the force legitimate or not? Okay, so let's say 2 people had a fight and one killed the other. Okay, they're in court now. Okay, so there was Ahmed and Mustafa. Ahmed, he killed Mustafa. He's in court now. He's thinking, how am I going to get away with this? Otherwise, they're going to chop my head off. So he said, I was forced. Okay, so he's trying to get away with it by making the excuse that he was forced. Now we have to say, okay, we need to investigate. Was he forced or not? So these are the steps they take. They say, okay, first let's look at the person who was forcing him. So the main thing that we need to do here is, does this person actually have the ability to carry out what he is threatening? So the person that's doing the threat, can he actually do what he's saying? So for example, if, okay, a big guy, one of you guys is a small guy, 8-year-old kid, he says, if you don't do this, I'm going to beat you up. So we say in this case, is that a realistic force?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Okay, because the person who's threatening doesn't have the ability to do what he's saying. So we have to check. So first we look at the one who is doing the forcing. Okay, is he able to actually carry out the force? Okay, and many of the ulama, they spoke about it and they said that this applies mostly, not only, but mostly to the hukam, the rulers. Okay, because they're the ones who force people to do things. Okay, and people are scared. But it can apply in any scenario. The second, the person being forced, we have to check. Is he happy with what he's being forced with, or is he genuinely in hatred or in opposition to what he's being forced to do? Okay, so that's how we know. If he hated the thing, then he's been forced. But if he actually enjoyed it or wanted to do it, he's not being forced. So we have to look at that as well. The third thing, when we look at the threat itself, we have to see, was the threat valid? So, for example, the person said, I'm gonna beat you up if you don't do this. But there's no signs of that person actually going to beat him up right now. It was just a threat in the future. So we have to look at the threat itself. Is it realistic, the threat, or is it just a verbal threat? Okay. So somebody says, I'm going to shoot you, for example, but he doesn't have a gun on him. Okay, so would that be a threat? Okay, so we have to look at the threat itself. Is it something that can happen, or is it just something he's alluding to in the future? Okay, so what was the last one you said, the fourth one?
Consequence.
Ah, okay. Okay, so the consequence also with the fourth one, it comes to the thing, generally speaking, the thing the person is forced to do, is it something forbidden or is it something permissible? So if someone is forcing someone to pray, okay, that's not force, yeah? That's a legitimate action. But if somebody is forcing someone to kill them or to harm them or to have something haram, then this is also how we understand that there is a legitimate force. Okay, when it comes to accountability in force, they say two things. There is, in Arabic, they say ikrah mulji or ikrah ghayr mulji. So ikrah mulji means that person was forced to the point he had no choice whatsoever. The person had no choice whatsoever. Literally, they say that the person was like a tool. Okay, so somebody literally grabbed the person, okay, and made him do something. Like his hands were tied, his legs were tied. He was literally like a tool. So this is called ikrah mulji, that he had no way out. Okay,
No choice.
he had no choice. In this case, they say he's not responsible because he didn't have anything. Okay. The second, they say huwa mulji, meaning that he had a choice. Okay, even though it was a very small choice, but he still had some element of choice. In this case, we have to look into the issue more deeper, and if he was able to not do that crime, then he's responsible. Okay, then he's responsible. But in general speaking, if a person is forced, you are allowed to do the thing to save your life. So if somebody says to you, I'm going to kill you unless you eat that bacon sandwich, okay? Do you eat that bacon sandwich or not? You eat that bacon sandwich to save your life, okay? In this case, you're allowed to eat the bacon sandwich to save your life, okay? What if, here's a good one. Here's a good one. What if somebody says, so let's say we have A, so man A, man B, and man C. Man A puts a gun to the head of man B and says to B, shoot C or I shoot you. Okay? So is B forced?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Is he able to shoot C? Because he's forced. Literally the gun's on his head. Is he allowed to shoot C?
No.
Why?
Because it's one life for another.
Perfect. They said in this circumstance, the force doesn't apply. Because now, though B is choosing his life over the life of C, and his life is not superior than C, so he has to bear the consequences. Okay. So in this case, force will not apply. But in other cases, it applies. Okay. So in these circumstances, it doesn't apply. Okay. People might think this is not relevant, but this is very relevant. I remember myself when I was in Egypt, when the protests took place, when the fall of Morsi and Sisi, all those things took place, and I remember people were saying, how can the army shoot its own people? Because they shot them while they were praying in ruku and in sujood, women, children in protest, they shot them, okay, in broad daylight. So people said, how can they do that? How can a person just shoot innocent people? Then I asked a few people, and they said what they do in the army is they have a line of soldiers on the front line, okay, and then they have the protesters in the front. Then behind this line, they have another line of soldiers. And behind this line, they have the big generals. And the big generals say to the line in front of them, if you don't order the line in front to shoot, we're going to shoot you. And that line says to the front line, if you don't shoot them, we're going to shoot you. So the front line then opens fire on the people because they don't want to die. So this is the level of hatred or this evil that exists in these people. So we can see this applies. Having said that, if we look at the Islamic principle, it does not justify them, allow them to shoot. Okay, I know it's hard to say, but they have to sacrifice themselves. They're not allowed to shoot innocent people. All right. Okay, so here comes another. Let's go back to. I'm going to give you some examples, and we'll try to resolve a few examples, and then inshallah we can finish. So let's look at the practicality here. What do we do if a person forgets? So we're looking at forgetting. What do we do if a person forgets to mention Allah's name upon slaughtering an animal? Okay, so a person is doing dhabiha, Okay, he's a butcher, and as he's slaughtering, okay, one of them starts thinking about his dinner, starts thinking about his wife or something, and he forgets to say Bismillah Allahu Akbar, and he just cuts. Okay, can we eat that or not?
Yes.
No.
Depends on the rule you look at.
Very good. So who says the meat's halal, we can eat it? Just say Bismillah. Okay, mashallah. Who says no, it's haram, you can't eat it? Good. So we go back to this principle again. So if you follow the Hanafi approach, the guy who forgot to say Bismillah, his sin is overlooked. You forgot. But the meat is haram. If you go to the Jumhur's approach, okay, you will say that his sin is lifted because he forgot, but the meat is also permissible to eat. So depending on the approach. So after the lesson, when you go home and revise, look at all the examples you've taken and see if you're consistent in your examples. Okay? So this will apply. So that's another example when it comes to slaughtering meat. Okay? Alright, and we also spoke about eating and drinking during Ramadan if you're fasting. Yeah? So if you accidentally eat or drink, if you follow the Hanafi approach, then you're not sinful, but you've got to make up for that day. If you follow the Jumhur's approach, you're not sinful, plus you just continue fasting. Okay? What if so this one's doesn't apply exactly, but still. What if in the month of Ramadan a person's fasting and he mistakenly sleeps with his wife in the daytime? Okay, he mistakenly sleeps with his wife. Is his sin overlooked?
That's a tough one.
Mistakenly. Don't ask me how. Just ask me. So, is his sin overlooked?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay. But what's the consequence for that? He's got to make up for it. Okay. He's got to make up for it, and that's also something that he has to do. He has to make up for it. If a person does it intentionally? Okay. What's then? Obviously, he's going to be. This is not in the topic today, but just to add that he's going to be sinful. Plus, what's his kafara? What does he have to do?
2 months.
Very good. 2 months of continuous fasting. Yeah, 2 months of continuous fasting. If he's not, then he feeds 60 people, but only on the condition that he can't fast 2 months consecutively. Okay, so it's a big punishment. Big punishments are because the crime is big. Okay, always look at it like that. Okay, so for example, if the issue is a life for a life, it's because you took a life. That's why your life is. So the punishments are in accordance with the crime. Okay, do we have any more examples? Okay, the last example, if you're traveling in the month of Ramadan, okay, it's the month of Ramadan, you're fasting and you've got to travel, you're heading out to Manchester, okay, so now you've got the excuse of traveling. What can you do?
Shorten the
You
prayer.
can shorten your prayer, but talking about your fast itself,
Break it.
you can break the fast, okay, and are you sinful if you break the fast?
No.
No, you're not, okay, so there's no sin, okay, and you've got to make up for the fast, okay. On that, I think I'm done with my notes. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
Generally follow stick with Hanafi and
That's a good question. Okay, so this is known as, this is a big discussion, that if you follow a particular madhab, do you have to stick to it in its entirety, or are you allowed to move around? Okay, people have their own answers to this question, but my opinion is that I believe it's, especially in the day and age we live in today, it's impossible to follow a madhab 100%. Okay, 100%. But if you are going to move away from your school of thought, then you have to move away from your school of thought with knowledge. Okay, you can't move away because of your own desire or because it makes your life easier. No, you have to be convinced with the idea. So, for example, if you're Ahnaf, and by the way, being Ahnaf doesn't mean just because you're Pakistani and you're born in Pakistan you become Ahnaf. Being Ahnaf means you've learned the Hanafi madhab. Okay, if you've not learned any madhab, then you're not on any madhab. Okay, so it's not something which you're given as a birthright. So, for example, if you're convinced with an argument somewhere, and you've gone through the evidences and you're convinced, not just because of the fact that, for example, you want to divorce your husband or you don't want to do it, so you do it because of your own desire, but if you're convinced intellectually with the evidences, I believe it's permissible for you to move away from the madhab. There's no issue. Okay, because at the end of the day, the deen is based upon evidences. Okay, so if you do that, it's fine. Okay, but on the condition that you're learning and you know what you're doing.
Yes. You know, we are talking about shorten the prayer. Can you pray in the car?
Okay, good question. Can you pray in the car? You can. Okay, when it comes to your nawafil, there is no doubt. There's no one who disagrees. You can pray nawafil in the car. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray on his camel. So as he was traveling, he used to pray on his camel. But when it comes to the fard, there is a bit of a disagreement. Okay, because they say that if you're doing a fard, you have to initially start by facing the qibla. So when you start the initial prayer, you must start facing the qibla, and then you can continue your prayer as you are in the car. Other scholars have said no, it doesn't matter. If you've got no other choice, then you can pray in the car. Okay? So what I would say is, if you're traveling and you need to pray in the car, try to face the qibla when you're going to start, and then just continue. If not, inshallah, Allah is forgiving.
You know when you're talking about force, and you said that it doesn't count if the person wanted to do the thing that they were being forced to. Would it also be counted if it was beneficial to the person that did it? They were forced to do it. It benefits them, but they still didn't want to do it.
Yeah, if you found a benefit in that, then it's not force, really, is it?
Even though it's a benefit, like someone was forced to kill someone so that they could, get a higher rank themselves. The person who was forced, like kill a king because you would become king, but they didn't want to kill him. Would they be, excused for it?
I would say that applies to the condition that he's got a benefit in there. So he's not hating the action itself. He might be hating just the killing, but the actual consequence, if you look at the whole situation, he's not hating the whole scenario. He's not really forced. There's a benefit in there for him.
So
he wasn't forced. So I'll give you an example. Okay. So this is if a girl, okay, if she is raped, okay, she's forced, is she sinful? No, of course she's not. Okay, she's not sinful. Now, look at the other side. They say if the boy was forced to rape a woman, is he responsible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that would, I'm only mentioning this because of the example given. So in this case, what the scholars say, he is responsible. Because it's impossible for him to carry out that act unless he enjoys it. Okay? Otherwise it wouldn't apply. So he would be responsible. Even if they put a gun to his head or threatened him with whatever they wanted. They say in this case, he has to be in a position where he wanted to some degree, in order for him to carry that out. So therefore they say that he is responsible. Yeah? So that would fit into that scenario as well. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one? Right. So at the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, we recite the verses where we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not burden us with the burdens of the people that came before us. Oh Allah, if we forget, overlook our mistakes. This shows us as well that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us that we forget. Yeah? That we will forget and we will make mistakes. So the beginning of the hadith, it said, I have pardoned for my nation. Okay? Meaning Allah has forgiven. So He knows we are going to make these mistakes, but Allah overlooks these mistakes. Okay? So we all understand none of us are angels. Okay? No human being is free of sin. Okay? We are not prophets. Yeah? So we will make mistakes, we will do things out of forgetfulness, or even out of force, or even out of mistakes. But we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmah applies, and inshallah, we will not be sinful in that circumstance. Okay?
You know you said this is a weak hadith,
Yeah.
but you said the ones connected to this are strong.
Yeah.
But do they mention each of those areas?
Some of them go more, they open up into other things as well. Like here, this hadith, it doesn't make mention of joking or being drunk. Yeah. So those
So you left specifically.
those are taken up from other hadith. Okay. Also, there's ayat in the Quran which talk about this. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden its soul more than it can handle. And obviously, these scenarios means that the person is in a situation where he's been doing things that he cannot handle. Okay, he's been forced or he's forget. So it's not just the hadith itself. There's ayat as well to support that case. Okay, we also know in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, I forget the name of the Sahabi, but a Sahabi who was forced to insult the Prophet ﷺ, okay, and to say his disbelief, and he showed his discontent to the Prophet ﷺ openly, and then he came back to the Prophet ﷺ and he was upset and he was crying and he said, "This is what I said." The Prophet ﷺ said, "It's okay, because it didn't enter your heart; it was just from your lips." Okay, showing that if you're forced again, it's overlooked. So there are other evidences as well that push it up. Yep.
So if you're forced, you said that if you're looking at the person who's giving the threat, that you have to check if he's able to carry out the threat. What if the person who's being forced thinks he can carry out the threat, but he can't actually carry out the threat?
Give me an example.
So someone said, I'm going to go and find your family and kill your family.
Okay,
They don't actually know what the family is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. So that would have to be investigated. Yeah, because what we're trying to investigate here is that the person who's claiming that he was forced, is his claim legitimate or not? Because if his claim is legitimate, he will not be punished, and if his claim is illegitimate, then he will be punished. So yeah, the issue will have to be investigated further, okay, to see whether he really did believe that or not. Yeah. Nothing else?
My question is about last week's class. So you know you said talk about sunnah and phone prayer and stuff, flags. You know you have say jar sunnah, jar farz like zuhr. Can you pray that sunnah afterwards if say the Jamaat stood up or?
Yeah, you can.
But would it be less rewarding?
I don't know about if it's just worded, but you can pray afterwards. Yeah. The order is that you pray it beforehand, but you sunnah prayers, if you miss them, you can do qada of sunnah prayers as well. Okay?
But would that be a qada?
That wouldn't be a qada, no, because it's still in its time frame.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you still get the reward for that.
But there's no lesser reward
I don't
for
know.
not doing it in order.
I'm not sure.
Because I'm just wondering why it would have been in that order then.
The order is because it's sunnah. That's why, because that's how the Prophet used to do it. So you're not going against the sunnah of the Prophet, but you just run out of time or you forgot. So you're not accountable for that. Okay?
I want to ask a question about, you mentioned at the beginning that if it's difficult to pray Dhuhr and Asr on time, like someone's working,
Yeah.
like every day that they can't, is it still okay to combine them every day because of the winter months, for example?
Yeah, so here, like we said, the word in Arabic is haraj, that there is, or haja, sorry. Haja means there is a need. So there's a difference between a want and a need. Okay, if I want to excel in my job, and because of that want, I'm having to combine my prayers, that's not really a need, is it? That's a want. But if, for example, you're a surgeon, and it's the winter time, the operation is going to take 2 hours long, and that's your daily routine, I would consider that to be a need. Okay, so you can combine your prayers. So you have to justify the need. Okay, and the only one who can justify it is you, and just remember, when you stand in front of Allah, will you be able to say that to Allah? Okay, otherwise you can convince humans or whatever you want, but you have to convince yourself in front of Allah. Is that the job you're doing, is it a need, or is it just your own ambitions? Yeah, that's what you have to look at. Yeah.
Talking about combining again, let's say it is a need, you have to do it. I know that you're allowed to join Dhuhr with Asr if you can't do something at Dhuhr time,
Yeah.
or to join Asr with Dhuhr if you can't do. What if you miss both Dhuhr and Asr? You're not allowed to mix them with other salahs, like Asr and Maghrib, you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, the Dhuhr prayer and the Asr prayer, there is, in Arabic, there's some people laqab, they give two things, one meaning. So, for example, they say Umarain, the two Umars. Who are they referring to? They say Umarain.
Umar
And
Umar bin Abdulaziz.
no, no. The one who came before Umar, Abu Bakr. Okay, so this is Umarain, they're talking about Abu Bakr and Umar. Also, we find a hadith from Ramadan, we say the Prophet used to break his fast with aswadain, with the two black items. What were they? And no, what was the other thing he used to drink?
Water.
Yeah, water. Water's not black, but they just give it the name. So the overwhelming thing, they give it the name. So same here, they say Dhuhrain, the Dhuhr and Asr. Okay, it's considered one time frame, which is really 2 time frames. That's where you can combine it. So even if your Dhuhr sometimes is a bit late, it's still in its time frame. Okay, the Dhuhr and Asr is considered as one block, and the Maghrib and Isha is considered as one block because that's night and that's day. So if you're going to combine, it should be done in those time frames. If you miss the whole time frame, then obviously you have to make it up in the next time frame. Okay, but that will be considered qada. not ada. So if you're praying, if you've got a reason to combine your prayers, and you want to do Dhuhr and Asr, so you pray the Asr in the Dhuhr time, so you prayed early, that's fine. Or if you want to pray Dhuhr in the Asr time, so you delayed the Asr, the Dhuhr, that's also fine, but it's done in that time frame. Yeah, this is called ada. You get the reward as if you prayed it on time, no problem. But if you miss the whole time frame, then it's qada, and qada has a less reward than ada. Does that answer your question?
If you pray Asr in the Zuhr time frame, but then I don't know, your appointment's cancelled as a surgeon, would you then no need to pray?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because at that moment in time you were in Hajj. Alright, are you done? Anything else? Oh, okay. I wanted to say something, I forgot. No, that's fine. Inshallah, the only thing I would like to request everybody to think about, we're on Hadith number 39, so 40 next week, and it's 42, so there's 3 Hadith left, or 3 weeks. Everyone think about what they would like to study after this book. Okay, I chose this book, the 40 Hadith. I want you to think. So the options are, we could do, for example, the Seerah, and Masha, someone suggested what they said, but put forward a book. What's the name of that book? Okay. Yeah, there's a very good book there as well, which is talking about the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So you could do Seerah, or we could do Tafsir, looking at going through the whole Quran, but we'll go over it in chunks. I'm not into details, so we're not here for 10 years. We're going into or we could do fiqh, going into halal and haram, but you probably fall asleep during those lessons. Or we could do another hadith book like this one. Okay, so I want all of you to think, or we can talk about the rules. If you think there's something specific that you would like to know the rules about, for example, divorce and marriage. Yeah, maybe we could do like a 3-week course on the do's and don'ts of the fiqh of marriage and divorce. Okay, whatever it is that you feel, have a think about it and let me know, inshallah. You can let me know on the group. If you're not on the group, we've got a Google Classroom group, so let me know that. If you're not on there, give me your email, I'll put you on there. Otherwise, let me know next week, inshallah. Okay?
Would you consider that to teach us how we managed to establish Khilafah and then how we turn into Mulukiyya?
You can, if you want, put the suggestion forward, and then we'll do it. Actually, what it is, we'll put the vote on how to establish Khilafah to the vote, put it to a democracy, and then we'll see how it works. What people
It's political.
Okay. On that note, inshallah, we conclude. Jazakallah khair. Wa barakallahu fikum. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.